Hi! So this is your lecture covering pages 121 to 125, and we're going to be talking about problems that the new nation faces as far as in the area of foreign affairs. Okay, so really one of the major problems that affects America as far as foreign affairs goes is the French Revolution. And originally, when the French Revolution broke out in 1789, Americans were overjoyed. They thought this was a good thing. After all, they had just finished fighting their war for independence, and they looked at first with smiling eyes upon the French and their desire to be rid of their king. However, the French Revolution spirals into madness and is nothing at all like the American Revolution. The American Revolution had a heavy focus on God, and it had a heavy focus on recognizing God's hand in the affairs of men, and it had a focus on prayer. I mean, even the Constitutional Convention was saturated with prayer after a certain point when there were so many arguments amongst the people trying to figure out how the Constitution should be written. And this, of course, is contrasted with the French Revolution, which the French actually wanted to kick God out. And the French said that they would have no God but reason. And this was, of course, referring to man's reason. And if you follow man's reason, the result is the Reign of Terror. And the American people are kind of divided over how to think about the French Revolution after they watch it spiral into madness. And the two political parties, remember we talked about the fact that two political parties were beginning to form, the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans, actually take sides. Now, Hamilton and his Federalist followers saw in the Revolution a confirmation of their belief that democracy could lead to mob rule. And when you think about the Federalists, I want you to think about the fact that they believed that very specific rules needed to be followed as far as government goes, and very specific rules need to be followed as far as representational government goes. They believed that in order to vote, there had to be certain qualifications that were met. And when they looked at the French Revolution and they saw all of the violence and the bloodshed, and they saw all of the death, they saw a confirmation of what they believed. Now, this is versus the Democratic Republicans, that's Jefferson's party. And Jefferson did not sanction the violence, he was against it, but he did retain a strong belief in the masses. He believed that this violent stage of the revolution was inevitable, but that it would pass and that a new golden age would come for France, which of course history shows that not to be the case. France went through a lot of issues during her revolution. She went through a lot of leaders and a lot of trouble. So of the two, Hamilton's view was slightly more correct because he is correct in recognizing that democracy can lead to mob rule, because if you look at ancient history, you can see that direct democracy, when it does not have any fetters on it, does lead to mob rule. Now, as far as officially, America takes a neutral position. Washington declares neutrality. He believes this is the best course, and really it is, because America could not afford to become involved in a foreign conflict. They're still working on paying off their debt. They're still working on being grounded as a nation, and so it would be really bad for them if they got involved in a war. They just can't handle it. Now, regardless of the fact that Washington and the United States declares neutrality, we have an interesting little figure who is introduced to America, and he was sent by the French government to America in order to enlist American aid. and his name is Citizen. His name is Citizen Jeannette, Jeannette, Edmund Jeannette, and he tries to pit the people against President Washington as far as um, uh, Washington's decision to have a neutral stance in the war. So how that looks played out is that when Jeannette gets to America, he receives a very warm welcome in South Carolina, which is where he lands. And it's important to remember that a lot of Jeffersonian Republicans were in this area, and remember Jefferson was more lenient towards the French Revolutionary cause, and he had more of a hope and a faith in the people. And so a lot of the people seem to receive Jeannette warmly, and he, along the way, even before he meets Washington, because he lands in South Carolina to go to meet President Washington, he actually plans an expedition from American soil against Spanish-held territories in North America, and he began licensing privateers to attack British shipping, which was very presumptuous of him. And Washington, when he found out about that, gave Jeannette a very cold reception, and you have to understand that the way that Jeannette interpreted that is that he interpreted Washington's cool reception as being contrasted with the people's warm reception, and so he got this idea, oh, well, the people will support the French Revolution. They must be for the French Revolution, even if their president's not. And he tries to cause there to be an uprising amongst the people in order to get help for the French. However, he found out that most Americans were law-abiding, and Washington, along with others like Jefferson, pretty much view Citizen Jeannette as a nuisance, and they want him sent back to France. So they demand that the French government recall him. And he was recalled, and it was just a very interesting little snippet in history for America. Okay, so the other foreign affair that America is really having issues with is her relationship with England. And that relationship was already strained because of the war for independence, obviously. England was in no mood to help America. England had stubbornly not abandoned her forts in the Great Lakes area. She had not paid for slaves that were carried off by British troops during the war. And England hindered American prosperity by refusing to allow American ships to trade with the British West Indies. So America and England weren't getting along very well. However, the war between England and France, which resulted as a because of the French Revolution, made matters even worse between England and America. And the people who were really targeted were the American merchants. They had a lot of issues with the British, and this is because the American merchants found themselves caught between the two countries, as each country, Britain and France, attacked American ships headed for the other's ports. So you can imagine it was a very sticky situation. The British fleet was much larger than the French fleet and caused a lot more damage. And one of the irritating things that the British would do is that they would impress American sailors. Now, impress in this context does not mean, show off and make people wonder at your skill. It means that they were forced. They were basically kidnapped. So American sailors were basically kidnapped off of their ships and were forced to serve in the British Army. And the British Army would say, oh, these people are deserters from the British Navy and they need to come back. So that's how they got away with it. Now, you're probably wondering, well, why would an American be accused of being a deserter from the British Navy? Well, remember, a lot of them would still have very similar customs to Great Britain, and some of them would still even have, British accents. The American dialect has not been really created yet. So all of this was causing America and England to get closer and closer to the brink of war. Now, obviously, nobody wanted another war in America, so Washington sends John Jay, who was a very skilled and able diplomat, to negotiate a treaty with the British. And the terms of the treaty were this: England would abandon her forts in America. By June 1st, 1796, England would submit to arbitration. So arbitration means it refers to a settlement by a joint commission of representatives from England and America. So they would submit to arbitration for damages done to American ships, and England would open certain ports in the British Empire to American ships. And then America would agree to pay debts owed to the British merchants. So a lot of Americans did not like the terms of the Jay Treaty. They thought it seemed kind of one-sided. After all, the British were supposed to have already abandoned their forts on the frontier, and the treaty does not at all address the issue of the impressed sailors, American sailors, and there still is no compensation for the slaves that were taken by British soldiers in the War for Independence. But really, when you look at history and where things stood at the time, John Jay's treaty was a very marvelous one, and it was the best that America could do under the circumstances. Remember, she's still a very young nation, and she still didn't have a lot of authority of her own. Okay, so we're going to talk quickly about another treaty. This is the Pinckney Treaty. So once America had settled her problems with England, Spain started to get worried that the United States might threaten the weakening Spanish Empire. So Washington sends Thomas Pinckney, who's pictured here, to negotiate a treaty with Spain. And this treaty basically settled the dispute between Spanish West Florida and the United States. And it also allowed for the guarantee made by Spain that Americans had the right to navigate the Mississippi River and to use New Orleans as a port of deposit. And of course, the port of deposit is just means that Americans could transfer their goods from riverboats to ocean-going vessels at New Orleans without paying duties. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about westward expansion. In the 1790s, there were multiple factors that contributed to settlers moving west, and several of these factors, of course, would actually include the Jay and Pinckney treaties. Because of these treaties, American settlers had more access to this land because of the fact that the British and Spanish threats in the area were largely removed. So Americans had proper claim to this land. Although there was no longer a presence of the British in the area or a presence of the Spanish in the area, there was still the Indian presence, and a lot of Native Americans acted in a hostile manner towards settlers, and this resulted in the Battle of Fallen Timbers, which was under the American forces were under the command of General Anthony Wayne, who's pictured right there, and he wins this battle against the Native Americans, and they agree to remove themselves from the area, and they abandon a claim to much of the Northwest Territory, which opens up a lot of land for the settlers coming in. And really, the Native Americans had to do this because they lost the British aid that they were accustomed to. Okay, so the last thing we're going to talk about is President Washington's retiring. He retires after 2 terms. He was weary and in ill health. He was tired of the political life. He was tired of criticism. And all he wanted to do was to go home to Mount Vernon and rest, which is what he did. And he gives a farewell address that is famous in American history. And he warns the country to be very careful because the world is watching. Thank you. Bye.